I read the news today, oh boy.
It's time for Nicole Sandler's What's News from NicoleSandler.com and the Progressive Voices Network.
The 2019 G7 meetings in France are now history, and Donald Trump has returned to Washington, D.C. Although the media is spinning it as more successful than last year's G7 meetings, there's a big cleanup in progress on aisle America. First of all, arguably the biggest crisis facing the planet today is climate change. Well, Donald Trump skipped the G7's crucial sessions on climate change, biodiversity, and the devastating fires ravaging the Amazon rainforest. When asked if he had attended, Trump told reporters,
I'm going to. In fact, it's going to be our next session.
In fact, it had already happened, and that's why the reporter was asking that question. So what was the excuse? According to the White House press secretary, quote, the president had scheduled meetings and bilaterals with Germany and India. So a senior member of the Trump administration attended in his stead. The problem here, both the leaders of Germany and India were at that climate change meeting, as the photos showed very clearly, while the president's chair remained empty.
Trump stepped into another pile of it, noting that the U.S. would host the 2020 G7 summit and suggested that he could host world leaders at his Trump-owned Miami Doral golf resort. Now, of course, critics argue that would be another clear violation of the Constitution's Emoluments Clause, which prohibits presidents from accepting payments from foreign countries, U.S. states, or the federal government. It's bad enough that Trump used the world stage to promote one of his golf properties in what truly sounded like an extended commercial, but then he lied again, saying that he wouldn't make any money on it.
In my opinion, I'm not going to make any money. I don't want to make money. I don't care about making money. If I wanted to make money, I wouldn't worry about $3 billion to $5 billion.
Ah, the mendacity of it all. There he is, the president lying to the American people, claiming that he's losing $3 to $5 billion a year by being president. Right.
Unbelievable.
So Trump was, as usual, full of lies and contradictions on the world stage. He lied about a call from China, claiming that they now want to reopen trade talks.
China called last night, our top trade people, and said, let's get back to the table, so we'll be getting back to the table.
He later exaggerated the claim.
In fact, the president later said there were, quote, many calls, numerous calls, high-level calls. The only problem, China's foreign minister's office says it is not aware of any calls, and no one else from the Chinese government has come forward to say that they participated.
The Chinese are saying that there weren't any
The
particular...
Chinese are not saying that. Excuse me, let me explain something. The vice chairman of China, it's like the vice president, the vice chairman made the statement that he wants to make a deal, that he wants to see a calm atmosphere. He wants it all to happen.
So it was a foreign ministry statement, not a phone call directly to the president or his aides. It was actually a statement of China's longstanding position on the issue. So why is the president framing it as something new today in a call that wasn't a call, but just a general public statement?
One of the things that it comes from is the back and forth and the changing statements from yourself. So that
the changing of statements.
It's the way I negotiate.
So my question is that a strategy? Is it a strategy to call President Xi an enemy one day and then say that relations are very good the next day? And then, it's gone back.
It's the way I negotiate. It's done very well for me over the years, and it's doing even better for the country.
Trump lied about the reason he skipped the climate summit, but he was busted.
Did you make it to the climate session? Were there any conclusions that you took away?
I'm going to. In fact, it's going to be our next session.
In fact, it had already happened, and that's why the reporter was asking that question. So what was the excuse? According to the White House press secretary,
apparently
quote,
Facebook
the president
isn't
had
working.
scheduled meetings and bilaterals with Germany and India. So a senior member of the Trump administration attended in his stead. Problem here, both the leaders of Germany and India were at that climate change meeting, as the photos showed very clearly, while the president's chair remained empty.
But we're not done yet. I guess it's not enough that Trump fell in love with one of the world's most brutal dictators, but then he lied about his wife also having a relationship with Kim Jong-un.
First Lady has gotten to know Kim Jong-un, and I think she'd agree with me. He is a man with a country that has tremendous potential.
Perhaps you don't recall ever seeing the First Lady meet Kim Jong-un. That's because she has not met the North Korean leader. So how does the White House explain that discrepancy? Quote, President Trump confides in his wife on many issues, including the detailed elements of his strong relationship with Chairman Kim. And while the First Lady hasn't met him, the president feels like she's gotten to know him, too.
I can just picture the threesome.
Hey.
On Monday, Newsweek reported that an attorney representing Congressman Devin Nunes of California is arguing that 2 parody Twitter accounts making fun of him are as dangerous as guns. The lawsuit alleges that the parody accounts called Devin Nunes' Mom and Devin Nunes' Cow
Follow them
constitute, quote, an orchestrated defamation
Fantastic.
campaign of stunning breadth and scope, one that no human being should ever have to bear and suffer in their whole life. Seriously. And they further argue that for Twitter to keep them operating is equivalent to negligently giving someone a firearm without determining if they're qualified to use it. Ah, just another day in Trump's America.
I got good news.
And that's just a bit of what's news for now. I'm Nicole Sandler. I host the Nicole Sandler Show here on the Progressive Voices Network. It's heard Tuesday through Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 Pacific. You can always get the podcast and lots more content at NicoleSandler.com.
Support Nicole Sandler. Fantastic work she is doing all independently. Paul Leary with you, live from Miami, broadcasting audio only on several platforms. Glad you're joining me. However, the big platforms, the Twitter is working, and the YouTube, I believe, is working, but the Facebook streams are not working. So that's a disappointment, and nobody cares because we want to keep going and going and going. So rather than stop and start, I'm just going to continue here because I want to test this out to see how far I can get before anybody notices. And thank you for watching the replay, you replay viewers. So let's start with the truth, shall we? 1994, I am born. Boston, Massachusetts. All began at the neighborhood house in Southie, where I conquered the video industry at the mere age of 16 with the Boston Neighborhood Network Television. I interviewed the wonderful, amazing Elephant Show stars Sharon, Lois, and Bram. I was 16. I acted in Boston. I took some courses at Emerson College, loved theater, excelled at theater, also worked in the public relations department at the Children's Museum in Boston, and we also did a wonderful reenactment of a play, a stage play that we did on public radio, WGBH. It was called Turf, 1996, about the busing industry of Boston. And we won an Achievement in Radio award for that. 2002, relocated to South Florida, up there in Boca and Del Rey. Luckily, hired by the Palm Beach public broadcasting station, WXEL Radio. And eventually did a weekly program, Saturday Night Jazz Show. Also was the fill-in anchor for everybody, every show. Did the On the Money program, Florida Florum, the American Senior Side Show, Chuck Zink, Skipper Chuck. I was his sidekick on a couple of his shows there. Also substituting for Morning Edition, All Things Considered, Joanna Marie's Classical Variations. I'm reading my bio just to get this thing started. We also had our newscast with the Sun Sentinel at that time. I interviewed many local and national celebrities, including community arts leaders and the Caldwell Theater's legendary Michael Hall, Charles Nelson Riley, and Wait, Don't Tell Me, radio star Paula Poundstone. And that was up at WXEL, 2002. What's that, like 17 years? Holy moly. Then I was called to Miami in the mid-2006, serve as fundraising producer. So, a traffic reporter on other stations, including The Coast, 93 Rock in Miami, and a couple of others nobody heard of in the Treasure Coast, where there are no people. During 2009, I joined forces with a nice guy, since passed away, Bob Cascametti, who started a queer channel broadcasting on YouTube and whatever, long before anybody else was doing it. I mean, 2009 is 10 years ago. And we co-produced a sort of a funny weekly newscast with the South Florida Blade newspaper. I also joined the board of directors with the amazing Somia Ali and her organization, No More Tears. And they help victims of domestic violence and their children. No More Tears. Look that up. Really great organization. Somia Ali dedicating her life to helping people. For several years on WLRN, I produced and hosted Broadway Edition, which was a series of interviews on South Florida Arts Beat Radio. I also did extended interviews online. I highlighted South Florida theater and the touring Broadway shows that came to Miami and Fort Lauderdale and West Palm Beach. I featured great interviews with the amazing, legendary Liza Minnelli. Yes, I wanted to retire after I interviewed Liza. She was just like unbelievable. Cheetah Rivera, Mandy Patinkin, Sandra Bernhardt, Cheyenne Jackson, Anthony Rapp, Melba Moore. I even forgot some of these that I interviewed, just to name a few. Celebrating, now this hasn't been updated in a while, but celebrating over 15 years in public broadcasting. It's probably closer to 17 now. And I was at WLRN for over a decade. I was the go-to guy for all things broadcasting, solving operations issues, mentoring and training staff on best practices. Oh, I love those lines, best practices. I stole that. Everyone uses it. I love it. It means nothing. Bringing professional standards up to the next level of social media. Because social media, you remember, just all was born just over a decade ago. Promoted a midday host in 2013. I was on air 10 to 2. Enhanced WLRN's news website, helping keep pace with the ever-changing world of journalism through the NPR digital training, which pioneered online platforms for... I helped pioneer online platforms and produced wonderful things with WLRN's flagship talk show, Tropical Currents. Everyone got it wrong. They would say tropical whatever. Am I still streaming? I see red lights over there. Okay, I think so. Let's keep going. Also, South Florida Arts Beat was a big part of my duties at WLRN, especially on the online side, helping bringing all these shows into the digital age. Radio did not exist with digital when I came along, and certainly helped pioneer those things. On Saturdays, I worked up at the other public radio station, which was Classical South Florida Public Radio Network. They actually purchased WXCL Radio, so they were broadcasting from West Palm on the 90.7. Also here in Miami at WKCP, and a couple of other stations on the West Coast. And that was a wonderful thing because I was the only local talent, basically, for the Metropolitan Opera because, it's a live program. It goes on for about 17 hours. So somebody had to be in there and talk and run all the equipment. And I loved doing that. And people loved having the Metropolitan Opera down here in South Florida. Just a total tradition, which I don't think anybody's doing now. Of course, WLRN doesn't know what they're doing, so they should be broadcasting it. But that's another story. 2014, I already told you I got the interview of a lifetime with Liza Minnelli. Classical South Florida was sold, ended operations in 2015. In June of 2016, I signed on as associate producer for the Nicole Sandler Show and the Randy Rhoads Show. And within weeks, I was promoted to executive producer and operations director for the Randy Rhoads Show on the Progressive Voices Network. I am now hosting this show, which is really not much of a show at all. These are the humble beginnings of the Paul Leary Show, live across South Florida. And as a freelance producer, I have also produced videos freelance for different stringer websites that have been featured on newscasts, locally and nationally. And I also provide social media, promotional services for a variety of local arts organizations, pianists, artists, and including the famous, the former, the fabulous Magnum Lounge, which was Miami's only New York-style piano bar restaurant. Ah, God, those were good times. Magnum Lounge. And also I provided services for the Schnitzel House, which is also recently closed over the last year or so, which was a great German restaurant here in Miami. And some other, over the years, some other pianists and artists and have done some great work with them. And I also offer live streaming services. I will go to events and provide some of my professional expertise to bring live streaming services to you, the wonderful people. Now, I realize that this is sort of like a one-man operation when you're doing this, and you have to look at 20 different things at one time. And I see here that I've got a red light on Facebook that is not even loading over here. Oh. I didn't see that. Oh, my hair's crazy. Well, we're not doing video, though. That's part of the reason. Not doing video because that's a whole other thing. I mean, my lovely little computer, I have a beautiful iMac, 27-inch iMac that I bought several years ago. And it is a powerful machine, let me tell you. It's gorgeous. But the graphics card and the logic board, I believe, seem to have crapped the bed. And so I haven't been able to get it fixed. And I've got a little MacBook Air here that's just sort of able to push out audio. So that's why I'm doing that for now. And I hope that we can continue this and more people will come in. Now, as of right now, nobody's here. Or if they come in, I didn't see them. Because part of the, I've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screens in front of me, of course, handling the broadcast. So where do we look? What do we do? Because there's a lot of crap going on here, and we got to keep the crap moving. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to see before I end this if I can figure out, which I'm sure, I mean, look at, I figure this stuff out all the time. Why not have 18 producers here? I really wanted to get that Facebook thing. Let me see if I can look at this right here. It's sending it out. It's just not live. It's sending it out. It's just not live. Well, how does that work in radio? It doesn't. Let's listen to Nicole Sandler again with her wonderful... Oh, no, let's see... what else do we have here? Let's reload this. Let's see if the Green News Report has anything new. Oh, today's Tuesday. I thought today was Monday. Let's see. They must have a new one ready for us. I'm not even sure. Well, Nicole said I could use her stuff. I'm working with Nicole, of course, but I didn't even think about the Green News Report here. Doesn't seem to be loading. Which is another reason with broadcasting you have to have the fastest, of course, equipment to get things moving smoothly. Because when they don't move smoothly, people don't want to hear it. They just come and they go. They come and go. Which sometimes is a different kind of party, but that's all right. And people don't want to hear it's not loading. Load it. Preload it. Load it again. Unbelievable. Looking at some of those pictures. Oh, it's not loading, but that's all right. So we'll try it again in a little bit. But I encourage you to stay with us. And by us, I mean me. Just stick with it. Oh, it did load, but there's no new... Seems to be no new content. Is that what it is? Here we go. Just tap it. Tap your troubles away. Let's see if this plays.
It's Tuesday, August 27, 2019.
Hectare after hectare of pristine forest just going up in smoke.
International pressure and protests grow over record fires in Brazil's Amazon rainforest. Democratic National Committee shoots down climate-focused presidential debate. Keystone XL pipeline clears another hurdle in Nebraska. Plus,
President Trump denies a report that he wanted to stop hurricanes with nuclear weapons.
The President of the United States floated nuking hurricanes.
But he says he didn't?
Yeah.
Then he definitely did. All of those stories and more straight ahead. From BradBlog.com, I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
David Koch of the zillionaire Koch brothers died. He was 79, but his family says they wish it could be longer, but at least he lived long enough to see the Amazon catch fire.
This is your Green News Report.
Mourners are being
of the hurricanes